But there was absolutely inbreeding, though.
Yes.
A lot. In fact, part of it was just a class thing, right? Even Queen Victoria, right? The Queen Victoria.
Yes.
There was scandal when she married Prince Albert. And you notice, it's not King Albert and Queen Victoria, it's Queen Victoria and Prince Albert. And there was scandal when she married Prince Albert, her first cousin, but not... That wasn't what the scandal was about. The scandal was that he was lesser nobility, right? He was only some duke or something, right? And so there was scandal about him not being high enough royalty. And so generally the ideal was that you would marry the highest of royalty. The problem is that really, really limits your gene pool. And it starts out with actually Charles V. Okay.
Of where?
Of most places. He was a holy Roman emperor.
Okay.
Ruled over most of Europe. Pushed back a lot of things. We're not actually going to deal with him. But he was kind of this amazing figure and started, or rather really defined the Habsburg line.
Okay.
Right? And then his children kind of became the ruling class of Spain, which certainly became a huge power in and of itself, and Austria, which also became a huge power, which this is going to come in later.
There is I would like to point out there is a gap between those two countries. Is there a story there?
No, not really. There wasn't as much of a gap back then.
Okay.
Okay, Austria absolutely did. We hear Austria now, and it's just this kind of one of the European countries. But for a lot of European history, it was huge and took over a lot of those Slavic states like Serbia and Croatia. It had Hungary. It had parts of Italy. It was a much larger deal.
Wow, okay.
And yeah, they had this tie-in through Charles V. And so, like I said, trying to keep with the highest royalty you could get, they largely married each other. And the Spanish Habsburgs got to marrying each other a whole lot, almost exclusively, where you had children who were children of first cousins marrying, who were children of first cousins marrying, and I believe out of 11 marriages leading to the end of the Habsburg line, out of those 11, 9 were cousin marriages. Third cousin at the most distant.
Wow. Okay.
And the problem is, while that may give you good social status, it also creates massive genetic mutations. Where the Spanish Habsburgs actually inbred themselves into extinction. They were gone. It got to the point where they could no longer reproduce. They had become so incredibly mutated is the only word for it. There was even the Habsburg chin, where the chin became incredibly pronounced. One of the last ones, his tongue was too big to fit in his mouth. There was madness. One of the last Carloses, not the last Carlos, but one of the last Carloses, Don Carlos is often called, was a complete maniac, lived to torture animals and servants and young girls, and yeah, he was just awful. Ultimately, I kind of believe killed by his father Philip.
Okay.
As almost kind of a mercy killing.
No, I have heard of this. I've heard of this guy, and I've heard of Philip.
Now, I didn't even mean to talk about this guy, right? This is
all sidebar?
This is all setup.
Oh, boy.
Right?
Okay.
This all leads there. But yeah, those actually just, the whole line died out. The Habsburg line in Spain died out.
Can we take just a second to talk about the science of why you shouldn't marry cousins?
Did you want to? We have a lot to go over tonight. I'm fine to.
I don't feel like I have a great grasp of it, other than just you have a much higher probability of recessive genes sneaking through if you're marrying close relatives, right? Otherwise, you're mixing up the gene pool, and recessive genes, like those that can cause these genetic disorders, tend to get overshadowed by more dominant genes. Is that a fair summary?
Yes, a little bit incomplete. Part of it is you're messing with the statistics. One way to think about it is if I took a nice black bag that I can't see inside of,
Okay.
right? And I'm going to take a handful of red dice and a handful of blue dice and throw them in the bag and shake it up,
Okay.
right? And I'm going to reach in and pull out, let's say, 10 dice, okay?
Okay.
And let's say that if I pull out the dice and they are all the same time, or if I get a certain type of pattern, very, very bad things will happen.
So if they're all ones,
Right, if they're all ones, or if we get a red, blue, like that would be bad, right?
then you get struck by lightning.
right some
example.
bad thing,
Okay.
right?
Evil magic bag.
Evil magic
We
bag.
don't want
right?
certain
and
combinations.
Anytime any two people get married and have a child, that bag happens.
Okay.
Right? The dice get thrown in, and a selection gets pulled out.
Red dice from the mother, blue dice from the father.
Sure.
Okay.
It matters little in the broad scheme of things. But when you get inbreeding, you don't re-scramble the bag. And so your chances of drawing a bad batch get higher and higher each time you do it, because you're not re-randomizing.
Okay.
Right? Now, these get played out on very, very large numbers when it comes to genetics, right? The number of chromosomes, the different ways that the DNA can interact. There's almost infinite variety, as long as you're bringing in new people. But when you have the same genetic pool being drawn from over and over again, a better analogy might have been cards, right? You shuffle the cards. If you draw an ace of spades, bad things happen. Well, you keep drawing and you don't bring in new cards. You don't shuffle, which means
Gotcha.
no matter what happens, you're eventually going to hit that ace of spades. You're eventually going to pull the wrong dice if you don't throw in new things.
You don't reshuffle.
If you don't reshuffle, right? Throw in
Okay.
green dice, right? Something like that, right? Mix it up.